everyone, it's me, Rabia. I'm here with my good friend, Tarinda. If you enjoy these conversations, our topics, or anything like that, please come visit my website at itsmerabiah, R-A-B as in boy, I-A-H.com, or you can like my page, It's Me Rabia, at It's Me Rabia, on Facebook. So, I'm so excited to be with this young lady, or this young woman here. Are we young women?
We're women, I think.
We're women.
We're paying bills.
Yeah, we're now, we've crossed into womanhood, like just no pre-qualifier in front of it anymore, and I'm not used to that. So,
oh, the young part. I'll take that. I'll take the young part.
Okay, so I'm so excited to be here with you. I've always respected your voice. I've always respected your opinions, and I was secretly hoping that you would agree to allow me to tape you and your opinions and your experiences. I know in some ways that could be asking a lot, so I am so excited that you're here with us and to give us your unique perspective. If you all enjoy the topic, please remember to like it and share it if you would like others to watch it, and feel free to post any comments that you have at the bottom. So what I wanted to talk about is what are the challenges, or what is it like trying to date if you're a single woman in academia or in corporate America? Are there some unique challenges to dating? I mean, I've heard of them and I've read about it, and I've listened to women, but what are those unique? What is that experience like for you, and what are your thoughts on that? And I wanted to get I know you're a professor, and I wanted, just to hear your perspective from your own experience.
Okay, so I am definitely single. I think the biggest issue for many women who are working a lot, I'm a professor at an R1 university, and I'm not tenured, so I'm on a sort of a hustle. I'm constantly writing, researching, going to conferences, teaching, all that stuff. My biggest issue is time. And when you don't have a lot of time to put into dating, because it takes work, especially if you are seriously out sort of thinking about trying to find a partner, if you don't have a lot of time, that means you don't have a lot of time to waste. So the little time that I do have, I'm constantly struggling between, should I take that time for myself and relax, do the things I like to do, or take that time and going out with someone you've never met before and trying to sort of choose the right partner. And so I get more selective because I just don't have time to waste.
Are men time wasters? I just have to put that in there. Like,
did I say it like that?
No, you didn't. But I have to.
I don't think men are time. I don't think men are time wasters, but there are clear individuals who have red flags that indicate this is a waste of time. And I think the more you know yourself, the older you get, the more you're just honest, I think. And I don't think honesty, I used to be one of those people that used to shy away from being honest about what I wanted and honest about what I don't want. And it just takes longer for you to finally say, this isn't working for me. So I've practiced saying that. This just isn't working for me. So I don't think men, I don't want to say that they're time wasters, but you can waste time on men, on some individuals.
Is it unfair to compare dating to almost like a job interviews, or just like you're applying for a position? I think that's like a great analogy. I mean,
oh, you think it is a good analogy?
I think so, but what do you think?
So that sounds so prescriptive. Because you can have, so I do online dating, as a lot of people do now, and you can, if you approach it like a job, you can look at someone who has all the right things on paper, and there's just no chemistry. There's just no, I like to meet people right away. and figure out. I'd rather just meet you right away for coffee and talk to you, because there are some things I can know in that interaction that I can't know from the objective checklist that someone might have online. So I think with jobs, it is more, do you fit the qualification of this? But with dating, I think it's actually harder. I think it's more. Well, but see, she's married. I'm not. So there's clearly something.
You don't have to bring that into it, because I can take on different perspectives regardless. But I kind of lost my train of thought. But I was thinking, just from as a professional woman, sometimes we let, not just as a professional woman, but women from as long as I can remember, put so much emphasis on the chemistry and the love aspect of dating, and we lose that focus on the bottom line, which men never lose focus on. They always, they're into the exterior. They're like, see, okay, I like what I see, or I don't like what I see, but the bottom line is, what is she, how does she add to my life, or how can I use this person? And they never lose sight of that.
Or does she cook?
So, or yes,
I get that question.
See, that's, and we think, oh, how dare he say that? But no, like he's
like, do you
looking out for his interests. He knows what he wants. And so, as a professional woman, are we good at that? I mean, are women? Are we built for that? Or are we still going back to the but we just had these great conversations, and how does it work? You know, so how do you see that?
Okay, that's a good insight. I never thought about.
You didn't want time wasting,
right? So on some level, I do have a bottom line. I just don't know exactly what it is. I know how it feels.
Yeah.
I know that if something doesn't feel right, I don't waste time anymore. Yeah. I'm very honest about how a person makes me feel, but I don't know how to sometimes articulate what that is. And I still do worry about hurting someone's feelings. But I don't waste time anymore. So I do think we have a bottom line, but I think chemistry, so are you saying that chemistry, isn't it like those intangible things?
Well, for example, a guy could be saying, I have an idea of what you're looking for. So say the guy is just like, I love you, you're so intelligent, and that's what I love about you. I'm so attracted to that aspect of you, and I love how take charge you are, and I love that you have high goals, and you're just like, oh, he's saying all the right things, and you guys are really vibing, you're getting into those really deep conversations, and he's talking about just all the things that you want to hear. But then, like, maybe around the second or third day, you find out, like, he hasn't been employed for the last 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Have you wasted your time, or are you saying, oh, well, maybe I can still work with that, because you're starting to fall?
I'm not in that stage anymore. I've been there. Even with, if someone like shows, like they take the bus to the date, or they just say, I'm just having car trouble or something like that.
To the date? Lord, he took okay, so wait, there's somebody watching this.
Or you've never seen them in a car.
That may have taken a bus today. Well, what's wrong with taking a bus?
If you're in New York City, people take the bus and the train all the time. But if you're in context matters. So there's an explanation that needs to happen if you are not in New York City and you show up to the date on the bus. I've gotten better at just going there with those questions. My brother used to always tell me, if you just ask up front what's on your mind, men they're not the best liars. So if you just ask them, they'll tell you. But sometimes I just was afraid to ask. Because I don't think I really wanted to know the answer. Now I ask. And
I say, so, if it's about time, before you start that falling, you might as well know the things you just can't work around. Like, okay, you got to at least, if you're not employed, you're in your job interviewing. Or like before I start to be like, oh, his eyes, So
no, I'm not there. I'm past that. I have had situations where I found out the person was living in a halfway house, so they were in between. When they say they were transitioning, they really were transitioning. So and that actually was, it was hard for me to say, oh, are you recovering? And they're like, yeah. And I said, oh, what are you recovering from? Crack cocaine? And I was like, wow, how do I get out of this
one?
But I was still sensitive to that situation. But
I'm still trying to protect his ego.
But I
thought you was strong.
I am.
Why should we be catering to that?
The delivery is everything.
Yeah, right.
So I was still sensitive, but I still said, I don't think this is going to work for me. You should focus on your recovery. I think that matters more.
Yeah.
And so it's still, I knew that was a bottom line for me.
Yeah.
That was a deal breaker. And I respect people who are in recovery.
Yeah.
But I don't think that dating, that's not where I need someone to be. So I guess what I'm saying is, as I get older, I think I waste less time.
Yeah.
I still struggle with delivery and sort of rejecting people or saying, no, this isn't going to work for me. But you have to do it because I just don't have the luxury anymore. I don't have time to waste. So I've gotten better over time, I would say.
Cool. So that's a tip for women to don't be afraid to, in the beginning, if it's a little bit like, okay, is this like an interview? Like, what's going on here? Because your time, your life, it's your life. You don't want to waste your time. Nothing makes a woman more bitter than wasting her time.
Right.
Oh my God, he wasted my time. Why didn't you just say that in the first place?
Right.
So
why didn't I ask?
They're going to do
place?
that.
Yeah.
They know what they want, and if all they want is a good time, then they got all day to waste. You know, you don't. You know, so maybe that's a tip, definitely for anyone, but for certainly a professional person or a person who's just is not trying to spend 12 hours on a date, or so, or just they don't necessarily need to date a person for like, we go on 10 dates and it's still like, well, what are we doing? Are we still meeting for drinks? Like, so anyway, let me lead into the next part of this. I know you value a relationship that's going to be a partnership, kind of like, do you mean like 50-50 or more like 100%? Like,
I like the 100%.
Okay.
Like fully being myself.
And that person giving their 100% and you giving your 100%. Exactly.
Right.
So, but you have a different perspective on how in the beginning to encourage that kind of partnership in a relationship or in a committed relationship, possibly ending in marriage or in a marriage or just a cohabitation. Like, how did you start that process of either finding out if that person is going to is gonna is gonna make it a partnership and not just try to take over or tell you what you're supposed to be doing or controlling you basically? Like, for example, I know you said something about I feel more comfortable splitting the check, and maybe some other things of that nature. Go into like, what are some things you would do to encourage partnerships in a relationship?
So I didn't know that it was. Some men do have trouble splitting the check. And it's actually very noble that some men they have to pay on a date and they want to do that. But I do like to split the check. Only because I want to establish, I guess, that there's no obligatory things happening here. This is me just sort of carrying my half of what I think is happening here.
Okay, if you didn't, what might you be afraid of him thinking or doing now that you've allowed him to pay?
I think it's so traditional that I worry that other things come along with that practice. So if we're going to be traditional about who pays, then that would lend itself to being traditional about other decisions or other ways in which we've been socialized to have family life. So I think sometimes tradition sounds great, but some traditions just I don't like.
Okay, which ones you don't like?
So I struggle with the idea that some men believe that they should be the head of the household.
Okay.
and I'm a Christian woman. I grew up in the Bible Belt South. I was deeply socialized in that way as well. But when I think about it, I'm in 2017.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I were to take on some traditional practices of all the traditions that we grew up in, just doesn't work for me. So I get to say that I actually want a partnership. I think that if we're both working and we're both bringing in income and we're both sort of figuring this, why not me capitalize on the things that I'm good at and you capitalize on the things you're good at? But the idea that someone should make decisions about everything and I sort of adjust to that, I can't pretend anymore that it's okay. And I'd rather talk about it than to sort of manipulate, find other ways to get my way, or to pretend to be something that I'm not. I think that I have skill sets that I think should be equal in the relationship. So something as simple as paying for a meal, for me, is just, can he handle equality with me, or being an equal?
Exactly.
And I'm not just saying that into like, I want equalship or egalitarian partnerships. And it's not as romantic or sexy or whatever, because that's not what I see in the movies. That's not but practically, if we're traditional about that, then that means that he might be traditional about everything else, and I'm not traditional anymore. And I used to apologize for that, but now I'm just, it is what it is.
That's the voice. That's why I wanted you on here, because of course, if a woman's listening, so many are like, exactly, you know? So, what I have found, though, as women have evolved, found themselves self-actualized and just matured, or whatever you want to call that, have we moved forward and past some of those stereotypes that we kind of trying to elicit a difference in the man, because that's now what we're wanting, and that's how we want to live. You know, we want to live differently. I don't see that men are transitioning all that much. I don't think that they're trying to adjust to our changing, but for them, they still see the world the same way. And for them, I don't know how much it is for them, like, okay, well, if I don't pay, then that means I'm going to respect her. Like, if she's paying her half, I'm going to respect her that much. Some of them are just like, oh, well, shoot, we splitting it half. Okay, we just going to share everything. It's like they back out a little bit out of their responsibility. Our intention is, no, dude, I want you to now respect me more and realize that we're together on this. But with how they interpret that, maybe, okay, you got it then. You don't need me. You're good. Okay, so how do I now feel like a man? Some of them are not intimidated by that. Some of them, but they're still going to operate the way they more traditionally men will just operate. They respond to hierarchies.
Yeah.
That's why the whole head of the household is even a thing. I mean, that's why the whole ego thing is very important to them. I mean, this is just kind of like naturally some of them, how they're wired to think, and when they're paying, it puts them in the mindset of, yes, my role is to provide for my family. Not that she can't take care of herself, but one, she knows that that's my role, so I can't try to, make her carry more than she's supposed to be carrying. So she knows what my role is, so I can't really get away with half-stepping financially. And I'm reminded that this is my point in the relationship. I protect my family, not just physically, but I protect them, maybe spiritually, or I protect them, from, social things or pressures. But I also provide that sustenance, that extra sustenance, because, even with hunting and gathering, meat wasn't 100% of the diet. It might have been like 20%, but he wasn't not hunting, that doesn't mean, oh, well, because I gathered all this, baby, you don't need to do anything anymore. Just sit here and I'll just provide all the food. That was never the arrangement. It was like, no, because in certain times, you still have to bring in those calories, and then there's times when, you just need that extra boost. So that's my kind of, whereas, yes, you do want that equal partnership. You still are dealing with men who aren't thinking, they're not wired to think the same way we think. And they still respond to feeling like, okay, well, I have to have some point, something that I'm getting out of this. So I know I don't control you, but if at least I'm still kind of understand that my role is just kind of to lead and to protect and to provide a baseline, then that just sets them up psychologically. Now, when it actually comes down to numbers, obviously it may not break down that he's making the most, or even
right.
It may never break down. When it actually comes down to who's actually making decisions in the relationship or in the family, you may realize, wow, the woman really is behind the scenes controlling most of that. He's just. Then again, some women are just like, I just don't want any parts of that. Like, I don't even want it to look or appear as if he's the head of the household. So that's valid as well. I just don't even want to I don't want to suck up to any of that ego. Like,
no, so I'm not there. If he insists on paying, I do let men pay.
okay.
I'm not like, no. But I always make an attempt to pay, and I really do mean, like, I'm not just going for my wallet, like the fake out. Like, I really am trying to pay. But I have had dates where men say, no, this is important to me, because I've learned to respect that men need to feel like men, and that's like a whole different, like, they've been socialized to do that, and if he insists, he said, but we're gonna have a conversation,
yes,
about it, because I still need to. And the best way to have a conversation about it, I've learned, is to ask them about what were the roles like in their family growing up.
Yeah.
So, and because I don't have that much time to waste, I get to that question on the first day. I ask them about, did your mother work outside the home? Did she do more? And I'll ask those questions.
That kind of sets him up for expectation.
Because a lot of men are looking for the kind of family life they had growing up.
Yeah.
And if a guy tells me that his mom was a professional woman and she worked, and I say, okay, so how did domestic life work? Like, did your father help? And I try to get to those questions, and I actually go there and say that my father is a strong provider. He's always provided. He's always worked. But my mom did too.
Your mom did too.
And in fact, she was happier and happiest when she had stuff to do, and she had, and I feel as though what made it hard for them is when she came home and did everything at home too. So I'm okay with them paying, because if that's a part of them feeling like a provider, that's great. Yeah. But I am going to have a conversation about what does that mean for them, and are they looking for mom, and if so, what is your mom like?
That's such a good
and
point.
If your mom is the best cook and clean and did everything and I'm not her. I can't do all that. I need help.
Yes.
And I'm okay with saying that.
How do we reach men on that part? Like, I think they can accept, at this point they're accepting, okay, you got your own thing. You got your,
I think they like that. They can accept that.
I got that. Yeah. So some of them are still whatever, but for the most part, men are good with it. So how does that transition to, okay, now once we're all back home and there's little ones running around, or there's, dishes that accumulate, clothes that have to be washed, who's responsible? Like, who, not even just verbally saying it, because you can say, oh, well, we both. Who takes the lead? Like, how can we get to that point where, okay, both are contributing there, if that's what you want, or if that, how would you go about that?
So what I love about men is that they can handle the tough questions. They're okay with saying, and it's to your point about they have a bottom line.
Yeah.
And if you ask them what the bottom line is, like a woman, like, I love that when I go on dates and I ask these questions, they will tell me if a woman is not ready to cook and be a cook, like, they love that I have a profession, they love that I do all this stuff, but once we get home, I'll ask, do you cook? Do you imagine yourself like cooking on maybe Tuesday and Friday, or maybe Tuesday and Thursday?
I've seen guys that have been like, yeah, of course I'll do that.
Okay, so those are the ones you gotta watch, because they
And then
straight are BSing.
and then when you actually see the marriage, they don't never.
They don't. But I've had dudes say, "Nah, I ain't cooking, man. Nah." And I say, "Okay, thank you for being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not cooking either. Like, I'm not gonna be Monday through Saturday." And then there are dudes that don't eat leftovers, right? Like, so they want like a fresh meal. So, but they know what they want, and they'll tell you. And I think that's when you have to move from the feeling and the chemistry and say, okay, practically, I don't know how this is gonna work, because my normal day-to-day life right now, I cook maybe 3 times a week. And I'm being honest. And I could change, of course. Like, you could say, oh, I could change for you, and I would cook Monday through Friday and do it. But if I don't cook now that often, I have to be honest and say, if you want a fresh meal every night or Monday through Saturday, I'm not your girl.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you got to stay on it. You got to.
And
still realize, even though you're saying that, sometimes when it actually comes down to it, you're like, God, I never thought I was gonna be cooking, but here I am, still having to figure out the food. Like, even if I have to go out and buy the takeout, like, I have to do it. I have to be like, okay, so what we're gonna eat? It's still up to the one. They're still kind of hanging back and waiting.
And that's what they
lead
had
on either whether you're gonna get takeout or are you gonna pop something in the microwave. So I think that's kind of lagging behind, and women are just, we're still just not. We haven't found that balance of how to get him more involved once with the home, not with the kids or anything, but just with the load, the housework. And
right, because that's just the cooking part. It takes a whole lot.
Yeah. So if you're both working, how do you come together on that? And of course, we're not going to solve that today.
Yeah, and you're not going to get to all of that on the first date. Like, I've had friends say, just slow down, T. Like, why are you bringing all this
more
up?
Those questions or those talks come further into dating for sure.
But I don't have.
But you don't have time to waste.
I don't have time, so
ask those.
I do ask real practical questions.
I like that. I agree.
And it's actually a nice conversation, because and if he's honest, he'll tell you. And they don't want to waste time either sometimes too. So I'm not afraid to ask it anymore. And I'm not afraid to say it might be a deal breaker if you're looking for a woman who is going to do cook, clean, and work and like do all of that. I'm telling you, I may not be your girl. I might need some help. And what's funny is when you date guys who've been single for a long time too, they actually do cook. Yeah. They're just waiting to stop.
They're waiting to they wait for you to come along so they can stop.
Right. And I'm saying,
I love it. Yes.
And
and you're like,
I think and some of them are better cooks than we are. Like,
it's hard to break them of their habits. It's hard to break them of the expectation that a woman is the source of food. It's hard to break that. That's a 1,000-year expectation that she. I mean, of course, you may have some chefs, that they just know that's my love, that's my art, that's my everything. But for the most part, I mean, that's hard to break his expectation that if I come around a woman, because I know there's always going to be food somewhere. Or
and
she's going to
make sure. Especially if they were raised by a good cook. Like, if the mom is a good cook, I'm like, oh, damn. Your mother throw down? Oh, we probably ain't going to work.
Men are more forgiving. They're like, okay, I'll work with you. And they will completely, as long as their stomach is being fed. They're going to work with you. But, yeah, for when you're just like, but no, I don't want to cook at all. I mean, they're going to be okay with, you have to figure it out. But not even just the cooking. There's so much more that happens in the house that, the clothes washing. Is that our job still? Like, is there any men out there that when they're with a woman, they wash the clothes? I'm curious. Or who does the stuff with the kids get completely divided up down the middle? Do the men help with the projects? And I'm not talking about the building of the volcano that needs. No, just like the actual, like the tedious little homework. You really don't do they? So. And if not, why? And is that okay? I'm not saying it is either way, but I guess these discussions are more because, women are wanting more things. And, you know, sometimes that matches up with what men are okay doing, and sometimes it doesn't. So, you know, we're going to wrap up this particular segment, but we're going to keep talking because there is definitely more that I wanted to get to with Trinda and her perspectives on being a professional woman and dating, and what she hopes to gain or get out of her relationships. So again, if you liked this segment, please like and share. You can like my page at itsmerabiah on Facebook, or go to my website, itsmerabiah.com.